Welcome to Nerds Gone Platinum. We've never done a Vita episode. We're terrible PlayStation people.
Yes.
How about that, Moose? I think the PS4 is getting too much of our attention.
Yeah. We need to focus on the Vita a little bit. Show it a little love as it send it out on that Viking ship as it reaches the end of its slave cycle.
As always, I'm one of your hosts, Jason, joined by Moose and a special guest this week, Georgina Young.
Hello.
Georgina's coming to us all the way from Japan.
Yep.
Where they're still producing physical Vita games.
Yes.
That's true.
And it will be for a long time, I think.
Yeah, they've got a big install base over there. So.
Yeah. I think being in Japan is one of the big reasons I got into it, because it is still so huge here. So, yeah, much easier as a collector here, I feel.
Nice.
So, do you want to introduce yourself, Georgina, real quick before we get into the Vita discussion?
Yeah, I'm Georgina Young. I've been writing about video games for like 5-6 years now. And this year I just started up my own blog for the Vita called Vita Paradisa. And it's been going really well so far. I've been really big into the Vita as my main console for about 2 years now. And I just decided to start the blog just on the Vita, and it's been doing really well.
So when did you join Vita Island? Officially?
I got my first Vita. I think I asked my dad for it for my 20th birthday or something. So it was a long time ago now. No, it can't be 20 because it wasn't made that long ago. But yeah, maybe 5 years ago or something. My dad got me a Vita for my birthday.
Nice.
And I've been playing on it ever since. But really, because I started moving about more, I started using the Vita as my main console because it's portable, maybe about 2 years ago now. So
nice. Very cool.
I joined around September 2013. Killzone Mercenary was the first game I really played. And And Moose?
I joined in 2015 when I moved. I went out and bought a Vita. And I actually owned a game before I owned my Vita. A buddy of mine had Dragon's Crown physical, and I think they were giving it out as a PlayStation Plus game on PS3 and Vita, and so he downloaded it, or bought it or got it for free, and then he had an extra memory card, and he knew I was going to get a Vita, so he's like, "Well, I'll just sell this to you for $10," and I was like, "All right." So I gave him $10, and then put it in one of my gaming drawers for a while until I was able to buy a Vita. Found a Vita, bought one, and enjoying the heck out of it. Dragon's Crown is what I've been playing the most on it, but I want to change that up. I've got to play Cosmic Star Heroine as part of our gaming challenge, which I know Jason's played and beaten, which I haven't, which is surprising because usually I'm more into the indies than he is. Not that he doesn't like them. I'm just like, I've been watching Z-Boyd games for a long time now. When that game came out, I was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And I just never got to it. And so I'm putting it on, now that it's out on Vita, I'm going to put it on my Vita so I can play it at my lunch breaks at work. So.
Yeah, I actually finished that probably last month. I really enjoyed it. I think the main downside to it is that it is so short. It's like its strength and its weakness, because JRPGs are long, right? It's based on JRPGs. And like usually a JRPG is a really serious commitment. So it's really great that you have like a JRPG that's distilled into just like 10 hours. But at the same time, then the characters don't get fleshed out in the same way that you would with a JRPG. So it's like its greatest strength and also its greatest weakness.
I liked what they did with Call of Cthulhu. And then they did the second and third episodes of Penny Arcade's stuff. So their approach to, like, when you level up, you just pick an attribute and keep moving instead of having to go in and like mess around with your stats. Like they just give you.
Yeah, I thought that was better too.
Yeah,
I really like the combat system in it. Actually, like the way that you can use your 4 characters and like prepare moves between each characters to and with there's like a bonus system, if you have so much
style.
Yeah. So like the way you can prepare like an attack 4 moves in advance, and you keep building it up until it's this huge like 10,000 point damage. That was really cool for me. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I played that first on PS4, so I essentially played the port, and my only complaint was some of the load between levels, basically when you're walking, seemed a little long. I don't know if you felt that way just playing the Vita, but when I played it, I was like, why is this? It almost felt like it froze.
I didn't notice load times at all, so I guess it's been optimized.
I mean, we're talking like 2 seconds, but enough that my first reaction is not that this is taking too long. That did the game freeze?
Oh, I didn't notice it at all. But then, like, there's other games like Stardew Valley, which is new. People said like that their one crashed a lot, and I never had a crash. I've been playing it like 30 hours now, and I've never had a crash. So nice. I think sometimes it depends, like between systems and stuff like that. Whereas like Salt and Sanctuary, when I first got that was released last year. When I first got that, there was a boss, and every time I died to the boss, the game would crash. And obviously, like that doesn't. I could still keep playing, but it took so long then to get back into the game to try and fight the boss again. And obviously, being a Dark Souls game, you fight a boss like 30 times before you beat it, right? So
yeah.
It was just like I felt like I couldn't finish it at that time, but they patched it out anyway, so it works fine now. But sometimes it's between systems.
So we all love the Vita. That's not up for argument. Do you live in the high class where you get the 64 gigabyte memory card?
I bought it recently. I bought it very recently. I've got a bit of a naughty story, actually, that I'll tell you. So I bought a very cheap Vita recently. It only cost me 5,000 yen. It's like $40. And when it said it was working, and when I got it home, it was working. And then after a couple of days, the power button started sticking. So, like it was always turning on and off all the time. And I went in and I cleaned it, and I couldn't fix it. But I just bought a new 64 gigabyte memory card, and I put it in there. And one of the things about the 64 gigabyte memory card is that they corrupt very easily. And because the system was turning on and off all the time, it bricked the card. And they're not cheap things.
No, they're not.
But I took it back to the store and I said it doesn't work, and they refunded me, even though I know that I broke it.
See, I had a problem with my 64-bit. So when I bought my Vita, I bought the 64-bit memory card off the bat because I knew I'd be putting a bunch of games on it. And I think I had my PS4 for like 6 months before I realized, hey, if I'm thinking of getting a Vita, I should probably buy pick up the Vita PS Plus games. So I was building a back library. I'm like, oh, it's on Vita as well. That's awesome. I'll play it there. Oh, it's on Vita as well. I'll play it there. And so I was like, well, I got a bunch of games. I'll just get a 64-bit one. And I bought it, or a gigabyte, and I bought it from Amazon. And I had the same issue. I had a similar issue where it just wasn't working. Games were not showing up on it. I tried reformatting it, wasn't working. And so they sent one to me with a box to like an envelope to ship it back, and I shipped them back the defective one. But it was nice of Amazon to replace that for me. But
yeah.
Haven't any issues since, which is good. And I'm hoping it stays that way because I'll be playing a lot more now that I can play Dragon's Crown and Cosmic Star Heroine on it.
Sorry, can I come back right back 2 seconds?
Sure.
I didn't realize you had a 64 gig. I still have the 32, and but I'm digital only. I mean, I started physical, but
yeah. Like I said, I bought it. I had the 8 gig one, and so I was running off that one for a while, and then I was like, I'm not even going to do 32. I'll just buy 64, and I bought 64. So
I couldn't imagine 8.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as the Switch, though, where like it takes up most of the operating system.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, back.
All right.
So
awesome.
We mentioned you being in Japan and they're still producing games. Are you digital or physical, or did you switch over, being that now you can still access?
So like aside from the broken one, I have 2 working Vitas. So I have the one Vita is a 1000, and it has a 16 gig memory card, and that's like an EU account. So because the one thing, like the Vita, you can have multiple accounts with multiple memory cards on the one Vita, but it is a pain to switch it out all the time. So I just have the 1000, which is my original Vita, that's like 5 years old now, and that is my EU account because the EU PSN has like much better sales than all the other PSNs. Like they sell loads of PS1 classics for like £1 each and things like that. They're really good. And indie are really cheap on the EU one.
Okay.
I'm British too, so like I've got a British bank account. It's easy for me to buy games on there. Then my 2000, which is like my main Vita with the 64 gigabyte memory card, is an American account because I get review codes, and it's easiest to get review codes for America.
Okay.
So that's what I play like most of my games on, is that one. And so obviously all my reviews are with digital games, but usually if I really like the game, I'll then go and buy the physical, which I did recently with Reverie. I got the review code and I ended up buying the box set because I really love that game.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, here obviously Vita games are a lot cheaper, I think, than they are in America or the UK. I mean, It depends, because sometimes if you go into secondhand shops, like you see them for like $5 or £5 and stuff, and there's not that many really cheap games here, but there's obviously a really wide selection. But I really like visual novels and things like that. So in that case, because my Japanese is okay, but I couldn't, like, a visual novel is all reading, so I couldn't do that. So like in that case, I'll import it or whatever. But I like the physical, but if there's a good sale or whatever, then I'll go digital for that. So yeah. But like any sort of platformers or anything that's easy, I'll just buy the Japanese physical version, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could just swap memory cards out for different, like save the account to the memory card. I mean, you put
the account to the memory card, you can swap it out, but you have to format the system every time you do it, and then you have to like put in the date and everything every time.
Oh.
And yeah, it would take a long time. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, it's almost like you plan on playing multiple games, not just like one game only. It's like, I'm gonna have to do this. This game better be long enough to.
Yeah. I think if you like had one game attached to your account and you're playing that, it would have to be like a JRPG or something then. So you're not gonna switch back and forth between your two accounts.
Yeah. Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one everyone talks about when they talk about Vitas, right? Like, I think that's the one that everyone has played.
Yeah, that's like the reason to get it, you know, is to be able to play that. So,
I mean, it was one of the first games I played on Vita. It was probably like the third or the fourth game, but like, there's so many other great games on it that like, it's such a distant memory to me now. You know what I mean? I love the Persona games, and Persona 4 is really good. But yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to buy a Vita, like outside of Persona 2, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good games out there too. I think it's also a good platform for the smaller, quote unquote, retro games. Like, if you look at like Dragon Sinker, it's kind of a retro, you know, looks like a Nintendo Final Fantasy game. You know, so there's games like that on there, and Longest 5 Minutes, Iconoclast. So, you know.
The thing is, like, with the Vita, is that for one, it's sort of like a portable PS1. Like, there's a lot of the PS1 classics on it. And they're really cheap. They're really cheap. Like, you'll pay just a couple of dollars for each one. And I think that's great. They're great to play on the Vita. And the other one is like indie games again, super cheap on the Vita. And now I feel like actually the Vita became more popular once the Switch came out, because I think people ignored the Vita. And then when people started playing the Switch, they were like, oh yeah, portable games are really fun. And then I think I noticed more people then buying Vitas when they realized like how fun things could be portably. But to me, a Switch is not really a portable console because, you know, it's expensive, right? Switches are really expensive. And I always worried, because it's big too, like taking it about, I'm always worried I'd break mine. So generally, if I'm carrying a Switch, I'll take it to someone's house or something. But it's not really something I'd want to play on a train or something like that, I guess. Like
I can agree with you saying it feels delicate. Like, I feel like the Joy-Cons that slide on the sides, I'm always like, I always feel like I'm going to wear and tear that too much, and, you know, they're not going to work. Like, with the Vita, you just pick it up and you go. Like, I mean, you got to worry about the analog sticks and stuff, but if you have a nice case for it, it's not a problem, which I do. I got a case, strap it in, and, you know, zip it up and go. And so
they're really sturdy. Like, I'm very well known for breaking electronics. Like last year, I had 5 phones. Like, I'm terrible.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I drop things all the time. I'm super clumsy. But I've had my Vita 1000 for 5 years now, and have it in my bag all the time, and it's still working. Like the really common problems that Vitas have, if you open them up, there's like the common one is that the battery or the touch screen pops out, and if you open it up, you can pop it back in and close it up, and that's it, done. It's really easy to fix. So that's the only problem I ever had with it, was the touch screen came out, and I'm not good with electronics, and I fixed it in seconds. So
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, the Vita. I have both Vita and Switch, and like I'll pick up the Vita like I would my phone. I'll just grab it, and I'm comfortable in. I can hold it with one hand. The Switch, I like grab it. I need both hands to walk. Like I'm afraid. Like I'm like, I gotta get this down quick. Where do I put it? Where do I put it? Where's the case? The Vita is more like it is. I don't know if it's sturdy. I think it's just because it's one piece. The Switch is still three pieces, and
the other thing as well is like for if you're into indie games and stuff, you know, the PSN has much better sales than Nintendo Shop. So indie games that are on the Switch, even if you're buying digital only, will be a lot more expensive for a lot longer. Whereas the PSN has the sales all the time, so they come down and you can get it a lot cheaper. Like I got Overcooked on the Switch because you know, it comes with 2 controllers. And then a week later, there was a big PSN sale, and it was like $3 on PS4. So, but I bought it at full price on Switch. So,
me and Moose played Overcooked for an hour, and then decided that we'll never be friends ever again if we continue this.
Yes, we had to stop. We had to stop.
Actually, me and my boyfriend had a sort of similar experience. So.
Yeah, I tried with my wife, and I'm like, no, there's gonna be yelling, and our daughter's sleeping in the next room. Let's just, this game's done.
Yeah, it's pretty much
But if you get the rhythm going,
oh yeah, once you
like
get, I think once if you get going, you're there. But like, my wife doesn't play games, so it was like a simple game. I was like, you could try, and then I was like, as I'm playing, I'm like, I noticed myself. I'm like, nope, I'm getting frustrated. My end is done. Hurry up, hurry! And I'm like, all right, don't yell at her. She doesn't know what she's doing. I'm sure if me and Moose gave it another go, we probably could get through the game. But it's definitely a great co-op game. It's one of those great couch co-op games, and they don't. They're very few and far between because there's not a lot of couch co-op anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing is, that is the one bad that like you can't really do co-op because you know, you need 2 Vitas, you need 2 games if you're gonna play it together like that. Like the Switch definitely has the advantage there with the Joy-Cons and stuff like that. But I think this is the thing with the Switch versus Vita thing is that to me they're just two different markets. Like the Switch is for like couch co-op and like taking to a friend's house or something, and then to me the Vita is for like on the bus, you know, your commute thing. The Vita shines for.
Yeah.
Or like the Switch is also for like if you're just going somewhere and being stationary. Like I have no problem taking it to work and playing it at work. Like right now I'm playing Hollow Knight at work, and I don't feel, you know, I don't feel like I'm gonna like drop it or break or anything. I wouldn't want to play it on the train. I wouldn't take my Switch on a train. I'd take it in a car ride though if I wasn't driving and play. But
drive and play. That's your next trophy.
No. Anyways, but yeah, like the Switch, I just feel like if I could sit on a train and play. I mean the Vita, I could just sit on a train and play it and not worry about like we were talking, dropping it and break. I mean, if you drop it, it almost feels like the Nokia of handheld consoles. You know, like
I agree.
Like completely, like you could drop it once or twice and be like, yeah, it'll still be fine. So
Yeah.
There are a few games. Jeff was just playing one that the Vita can be used as the co-op as the player 2 controller. There's not a lot, but I wish more games had that. I think it was Beyond Two Souls. You can activate it as a second controller.
As the controller for any PS4 game.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
The problem is the Vita doesn't have L2 and R2, and it doesn't have L3 and R3.
Yeah.
So if you need those buttons, you have to use the back touchpad, which is terrible. But there is like Hori grips and things like that, which convert it into more of a PS4 controller. But it's good as well because PS4 controllers are expensive. So, if you already have a Vita, obviously I'm not saying buy a Vita just to use as your second PS4 controller, but if you already have a Vita, then that's the other thing. You can use it just as a controller if you want to play co-op on PS4.
Yeah, we don't know anything about poorly controlled games. Borderlands.
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing about Vita obviously is that it's you got remote play too, so you can play PS4 games in bed and stuff. But again, that's better if you have a grip so that you can use L2 and R2 rather than the touch pad. But if you're playing like a platformer or anything where you don't need that sort of thing anyway, then it's easy.
I probably can count on one hand how many times I did remote play. I just never really used it.
Oh, I use it a lot, just so I can sit in bed and play PS4. I don't have a TV in my bedroom, so I'm playing the PS4's in the lounge and I'm sat in bed playing it. And I never used it with PS3, but I heard that was terrible. And it didn't work at all, and that's how it was marketed, was that you'd be able to play PS3 games in bed, and it really didn't work. But the PS4, it works pretty smoothly. You don't really have any problems there, so.
Nice.
I guess it also depends on the game you're playing, though.
Yeah. I mean,
probably how far you are from the what your Wi-Fi is and how far you are from the system. So.
But I've never had a problem. But then Bloodborne or something, that's probably not great. Honestly,
no.
Whatever.
No.
I know people that do play Bloodborne and that in on their Vita, so.
Then again, didn't that guy beat Dark Souls with the keyboard or the guitar controller? So I mean, I'm sure people can do it. It's just not for the.
Well, there's the one guy beat it with bananas. Remember, he hooked up electrodes to bananas and used the bananas, hitting the bananas as his controller. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah, next time you complain about a controller scheme, this guy's like.
Well, there's the one streamer, I wish I knew his name now, but he beats all games on a dance pad. He's got
I've seen that one. Yeah.
He's got an arcade dance pad, a 2-player one. And you can use all the 8 buttons then. He beat Cuphead with that. I was really surprised.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Next time I want to complain about controls.
But I mean, if that's what you're into, then go nuts. But
So what would you say? Oh, you had something?
Oh no.
Oh. Favorite Vita game ever?
I probably would say Danganronpa. That's a really popular choice, I know, but I really love those games.
What's that? I said I need to play them.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, when they're one of the top games, right? When people talk about Vita games, I mean, the funny thing is that it was my favorite series for a long time, and I was really looking forward to the third one coming out. And when I got the review code, it was for PC, not Vita. And I'm like, well, it's my I get to play this a month before anyone else. Whether it's on Vita or not. But I ended up having to carry my laptop around, take my laptop on trains and things like that. And all the time I was thinking, God, I wish I had the Vita code.
Yeah.
But yeah. I really like the third one, although people hated the ending. Because the big thing about Danganronpa is that it's got really good plot twists.
And the plot twist to the last one, people like, it's like Marmite. People love or hate it, and I really loved it. But all three of them are really good in my opinion. Like, I guess it depends because it's part visual novel, so it's really text heavy. It's part like not Professor Layton, what is it? Phoenix Wright, and part visual novel, I guess, murder mystery visual novel. But yeah, I think that's a really great series.
Moose, your favorite?
My favorite Vita game I'd have to go with Dragon's Crown because I played it the most on the system. Really enjoy Dragon's Crown. I've been playing Terraria would be up there as well. We've played a lot. Jason and I have been playing a lot of that, although he's played more of it on the Vita than I have. So those probably be my top 2 games right now. And then it's been, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've touched the Vita just because of our 2018 challenge that we've been doing, and none of my games are on the Vita except Cosmic Star Heroine and now Dragon's Crown. So and I think I was gonna try and add Odin Sphere to the challenge list and swap something else out, but because I have that on Vita, but I just went with Dragon's Crown just because I also had it on PS4, so I was able to, upload my save, play it at work, and then bring it home and play it at home if I wanted to. So.
Yeah, I actually haven't played Dragon's Crown. I played it a bit when it was on PS3, and I have the Vita version, but I haven't, like anyone's backlog, I haven't got around to it. But I did finish Odin Sphere a couple months ago, so I do like Vanillaware games, but...
Yeah, Odin Sphere is a lot of fun, and I think I also didn't put that on the list because I was further in that game than I was Dragon's Crown. I think I was like really close to the end, and I just didn't want to put it on the list as like a quote unquote easy game to beat. So I still need to beat it. I still need to beat Dragon's Crown. I haven't beaten that either. I am finding I love it on Vita. But I'm finding that I'm loving it on PS4 a little bit more because I don't know. It's just a bigger screen. Like to see everything. It's a really beautiful game. Like, the game is real pretty and looks really good. And I'm not. I have I just recently got a PlayStation 4 Pro, so there's not a lot of slowdown for it. Not that there was a lot on the Vita. Like a lot of Vanillaware's games that they put on Vita. I have what was it? Muramasu, I think is the other one. I have all 3 of those. I have Muramasu, Odin Sphere, and Dragon's Crown, and they all run like really good. The only area that it might, hiccup a little bit is the loading. Like that's about it. Like I didn't find that there was any slowdown, or if there was, I just didn't notice it. So they did a really great job of porting it, to the Vita.
I think it's to do with like your lifestyle, right? Because I spend a lot of time at work. Like I work really long hours, and aside from that, like going to other people's houses and traveling and stuff. So like I'm not actually sat in my house, I feel like, a lot.
Yeah.
So that's why I think because I got my job about 3 years ago, and I think that's about when I started gravitating towards the Vita because it just suited like how my life was at that time. So I think like if you are someone that's on the go a lot, then that's when the Vita works for you. But if you spend time at home, then obviously there's a lot of crossover with PS4. So if you spend a lot of time at home, then you can play it on your TV better.
Do you ever feel certain games, not necessarily genres, you enjoy them better, like the type on the Vita as opposed to the PS4?
Generally, like I prefer everything on the Vita because it's portable. But I mean, one of the big genres that fits perfectly with Vita is visual novel, because obviously, like it's a book, right? So like you want to read a book on the go. That was another thing with review codes. I got Chaos Child, and that was a PS4. And I found that I was constantly playing that on the Vita because, like a book, I want to read it before bed. So I was always in bed just reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And like visual novels as well, you know, you can save at any point. So you read a couple scenes or whatever, and then you can save it. And like I mean, there is loads of visual novels for the Vita, loads and loads, like endless. So if like it works really well with that. And the thing is as well, I used to read a lot, but I hadn't played any visual novels until I got the Vita. And I think that's another reason why I love it so much, because it opened up this whole new genre of games to me that I hadn't really got into before. And I think like, I mean, obviously like Steins Gate is a really big one, and the Nonary games is another big title in that. And I think if I was made to sit in front of my TV or my laptop and read all the time, I wouldn't have stuck with them like I have, because I can move about with them.
Yeah, like when I played, I probably put 60 or so hours into the Terraria Platinum. I think 50 of those went to the Vita, because I just felt that managing that like inventory, having it right there instead of on it was so much easier. And then Vita standby, I feel just being able to like, if I needed to take a quick 2-minute break, I can leave the room, come back. Like you can put the PlayStation in rest mode, but like it's not the same. Like the Vita, it's almost instant. I mean, Terraria had that issue where it kept trying to reconnect you to PSN, but you could easily just cancel that. But I felt it. You could pick up the game so much quicker, and in some games like Stardew Valley, something where it's like you only want to do like 5 minutes worth of.
That's the thing, yeah. Stardew, you save every day, right? And a day can take like 20-25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good that you can just put it on standby and come back to it anytime.
Right, like we're both playing Dark Souls Remastered. We're not logging on to play Dark Souls for 2-3 minutes. But like in 2-3 minutes in Terraria, I could dig to hell, get something. In Stardew, you could do a bunch of farming and like, but like Dark Souls, I mean, you could probably die in 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, that's guaranteed. But besides that, I feel the Vita, like it's better for like.
I think platformers work really well on it too. If you look at like the Rayman series or like a lot of indie platformers too. Like I love Shovel Knight on it. I'm always playing that. Like, you know, anything. And as well, I was saying about like PS1 games, like the Ratchet and Clank trilogy, Crash Bandicoot trilogy's on there, Sly Cooper trilogy. Like all those games, each level is really quick, you know, so you can play a level or so save as well.
And we just had them on the show a couple weeks ago. The developers for Cat Quest, and
cool,
phenomenal game, but it's PS4. It's on Switch, but playing it, and then Moose played a little bit enough that I feel it would be perfect on the Vita. Like it didn't have complex controls. A few of the extra controls could probably be mapped elsewhere, but like it was one of those that it would have been perfect for the Vita. I mean, it worked fine on the PS4. It wasn't a lot of reading, so it wasn't any of that, but it was the type of gameplay where you're like, this would be perfect as a portable. And obviously being on the Switch proves that.
Yeah. The other thing is the touch screen. I mean, one of the big games that was Vita only for a long time is Severed, of course. And that's a really amazing game. And like, I actually got blisters. I finished it in like a day, because as soon as I got it, I just couldn't put it down. And I got blisters on the ends of my fingers from rubbing them over the touch screen. But yeah, it was like, it's a really, really good game, that one. And I think there's like a lot of games that just using like the touch screen controls as well is like better. It's like easier with the touch screen. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of games like that work well with the Vita in that sense as well.
Sometimes it's overkill. I think like Severed worked. I didn't personally like Severed, but I know it's gotten good reviews, and I got it, the whole concept. But like, you look at games like Uncharted. They were showcasing everything the Vita could do. The back touch, the front touch, like the rotation. And I get it, but like that's a long, like Severed's not a long game. Uncharted was like 25 hours. And I was like, at this point, I was like, okay, now we're done with this. I don't need to rub a coal sketching into a wall anymore. Just let me get through the level.
Right. Yeah, like, okay, I think the thing is as well is that a lot of games, because they were on Vita, they tried to shoehorn the touchscreen into it. I understand that too. And like Uncharted, you don't have to. Oh, you do for the coal, right? Yeah,
I believe
but
you have to.
touchscreen for everything, like the platforming. You can use the sticks, the buttons.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like I understand it was one of the release games, so they were trying to get everything in. But I enjoyed Uncharted. I can't pretend I didn't enjoy Uncharted. But like Tearaway, I feel like that uses the screen really well. And even like small things like in Salt and Sanctuary, you heal by touching the corner of the screen. And that like worked really well to heal quickly, and you didn't have to move your thumb so far away from the buttons then. I felt that was good. So yeah. I think some even like tiny little touchscreen controls can sometimes work really well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with me, Uncharted was more of a preference. It worked well. I just didn't want to do it anymore. The only game I really had an issue, and I mentioned before, Borderlands 2, I played hundreds of hours on the PS3. When they announced it for Vita, I was like, this is day one. It was like just running in the first level, just running for the first 2 minutes, and I threw 3 grenades and blew my. I was like, really? Like you would just brush the back or brush the touchscreen in the front, and it was like this. They didn't plan this well.
Actually, yeah, I was playing Persona 2 Eternal Punishment on Vita, and for some reason, I do not know the reason, the camera is controlled with the back touchscreen. So if you touch the back touchscreen, the camera starts spinning around. And I remember thinking, like, what's wrong? Like, is my analog stick jammed or something? Because I thought that's what was causing it to spin around all the time. And then I realized it was a back touchscreen control, and I couldn't turn it off either. So whenever I was playing it, I had to be careful not to touch the back touchscreen. So yeah, there is some not great control schemes sometimes, but
yeah, the other one that comes to mind is Killzone. The right side of the touchscreen nearest the face buttons will switch your weapons. So if you like happen to just like fat finger right there on the button, you might tap, switch a weapon, and then fire the wrong one by accident.
Yeah.
Did either of you have any Vita features you wish weren't there? I mean, we talked extensively about the touchscreens, but any other?
I mean, the back touchscreen, isn't it? That's that's the one.
I think I like where they were trying to go with it. They should have just made it, or they should have. Yeah, it shouldn't just be there until they could come out with something that, like you were saying, Jason, where you were playing and it's so sensitive that you're throwing 3 grenades while you're trying to run in Borderlands, you know?
Yeah, I mean, have you played the Fireflies Diary? It's by the Yomawari team. I don't know if you. That it's like there's a character and it's controlled by 2 fireflies. One is the front touchscreen and one is the back touchscreen. And that's the only game I can think of where it worked. Every other game I do not think was enhanced by the back touchscreen. That's the only one example of all the games I've played that I can think where it was useful. Everything else, I wish it wasn't there.
I think it's because every game is so different with controls that, like, some games you'll just rest your hands there holding the Vita, but then you pick up a game that has the controls, not realizing it, and you're pressing essentially buttons without intending to.
Going back to Uncharted as well, there was a bit where you had to hold the Vita up to the light.
Oh yeah, that was
nighttime, and I just couldn't get a light source that was strong enough to work.
I think I think I actually used I pulled I happened to be in the office and I was like, I have a flashlight. I'm just putting the flashlight right on the camera. We're getting this done with.
That's the only time I feel like, yeah, I mean, the camera isn't put into games so often. Like, I feel like the Vita doesn't really need a camera particularly anyway, but I understand that people want it. It's like the 3DS and stuff didn't need a camera either, but you know. But in Tearaway, they use that, and you can take some quite funny pictures, and then your world is plastered. Like, I was pulling all these goofy faces, and then like the wallpaper to my world was, you know, these terrible double chin pictures, and that amused me. But that's the only time I can think.
That's funny.
Yeah. But that save file I would never let other people see. Just my own amusement.
Right.
Hypothetically, we're the three of us get to design the Vita 2. What do we want based on the first one? So we're not going ground up. We're just going to improve the current version.
A lot of people are talking about like the PlayStation 5 and the way that that it's going to be sort of like a better version of the Wii U, if you get what I mean.
So,
where the controls are going to be Vitas, essentially. Like, I know a lot of people are talking like that. That's what they think is going to happen. I think that's not a terrible idea. The Wii U, I think, obviously didn't work because it was one thing is it was designed for Japanese houses where the walls are really thin. So, because I remember I was saying, like, the Wii U works fine. Why is everyone complaining? I can play anywhere in the house. And then they were like, yeah, you live in Japan. Like, go in the next room, you can't use the thing anymore. Because I played Bayonetta almost exclusively in bed when I played that too. But
nice.
Yeah. If the Vita could work in that way, I think that would be really cool. I mean, I'd like to see more cross-play and more cross-save without having to buy 2 copies of the game. I mean, that's always a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always boggles my mind. Like, it happened with Terraria, which was weird. Like, I had to buy a PS3 version, but like it was cross-buy with 4 and Vita.
Yeah.
That was really weird. I was able to pick up Terraria on PS4, and it was cross-buy with Vita because they were like, if you don't buy it now, you know, because I think it was an option where it was going away after a while. It was only during like the launch, the window of Terraria. But I loved it on the 360. So when I bought my PS4 and saw that, I was like, yep, picking it up. I'll play the heck out of this. So,
yeah.
Good game.
Crossplay would be an improvement because some games do it really well. I mean, obviously the Switch does it the best. You just plug it in; it's now a home console. I still would like 2 separate systems. I like my Vita being a separate, but some games though it takes. Terraria wasn't awful. It could have been. It was slow on the Vita upload download. The PS4 was fine getting the data, but like. I can't. I mean, how is Dragon's Crown with that?
Getting the data?
Yeah,
it's not that bad. It's pretty easy.
I mean, you're dealing with the cloud, so I get it. There's limitations, and obviously the Vita can't be plugged in to an Ethernet cable.
Yeah, that is the thing is that you can't like plug it into the internet as easily. I mean that whole thing with the 3G, right? Like some Vitas are 3G. I mean that was less too.
Yeah, those were the early ones where you could.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of like you know, ideas that they had going that they were gonna do all these things. You could download games on the go, and their ambition totally was ahead of the technology and ahead of the practicality of usage. So yeah, I think that's a lot of problems. But then, like, obviously with the Switch now, you can see that it's brought more forward.
I think like the size and the weight of it is good. I much prefer the size of the Vita to the Switch and stuff, so I wouldn't want to change that.
I'd like it to get some shoulder buttons.
Yeah. I feel like getting L2 and R2 and maybe even L3 R3 as well.
Yeah.
Would be good. So essentially it is like a PS4 controller with a screen.
Yeah. I think if they were able to do that, that would be awesome.
I think the analog sticks are really good, actually. I really like the responsiveness on there. It's much better than the 3DS analog stick. And certainly much better than that new 3DS nubbin, which drives me mad. So
I would make a dead zone on the touchscreen. So like we talked about when you accidentally brushed against, so maybe just a border. So keep the Vita the same size, but add a small border so you're not accidentally pressing it, or maybe even for touchscreen, moving the touchscreen more central. So like obviously you're not going to be putting your hand in the middle of the screen for no reason.
Yeah.
Or you can even have like a setting that can turn touchscreen controls off and things like that.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I would do something about the save data. I hate deleting a game for room and then realizing I didn't back up the save data. Like keep them separate. Like separate those two things.
That's true.
A pain. And I mean, obviously, no one wants the memory cards. Like,
well, they can fix that. If they're going to do memory cards, at least fix it to where it's not proprietary and insanely expensive. You know?
I mean, it backfired, right? Because I think so many people would have bought a Vita if they could just use any micro SD card.
Yeah, like, they wouldn't have had a problem with it. Like they would have sold way more if it would have been, if it wasn't proprietary, and they wouldn't have a problem of it, you know, dying or being slowly dead a year, you know, like 2 years into the life cycle of it. So
I mean, 64 gig is not even that big. If you look at like micro SD cards now, you know, they can go really huge. So you'll like, by making it Sony's own ones, you know, the Vita's own ones, it meant that 64 was the max people could go for. I mean, I bought my 2000 recently and it cost me the same price as that 64 gigabyte memory card. So you're looking at like double the cost for just for the memory card on top of the console.
Yeah.
You know, they fixed that. They did the Days of Play Vita recently, which comes with 32 gigs. So I think that was like a really good bundle. But yeah, I mean, everyone knows the memory card was a huge problem. Like, it's a huge cost on top of just the system. Like, the system was sort of affordable price, but then the memory card made it unaffordable. So that's why a lot of people didn't buy it. That was the.
What's amazing is the price is still high.
Yeah.
I just looked now on Amazon, $89 for a 64 gigabyte. I just spent $10 on a 256 gigabyte flash drive. Like, what are they doing?
Well, I mean, Japan's a little bit cheaper. I think mine was $50, but I mean, still, like, you know, no one wants to pay. When they bought the system for $60, you don't want to pay $50 for the memory card.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, here in Japan, I think what made it such a better seller here is that it's sort of sold as like a women's console a little bit here. I mean, obviously, like men have Vitas and play Vitas here too, but they have so many like women-oriented titles, like loads of otome games come out on Vita, and visual novels is a more female-oriented genre as well, and like a lot of new games coming out are like visual novel, otome, things like that. And often if you look in the Vita sections here, it's a lot of women. So I think like and like a lot of those games don't get localized and don't get translated. So I feel like that while like I guess they assumed it was a Japanese only market, I spoke to a lot of women on Twitter as well who are into those games and started learning Japanese even just to play those games. So I think they missed out a little bit on not localizing a lot of those games and having more women pick up the Vita in the West is what I feel like too. So yeah, I think they missed out a lot with it. I mean, like removing the first party support after the first year.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah.
Like now in the West, it's pretty much living off indies, right? Like the indie market's really strong for it. But in terms of like first party releases, like NISA have stopped. NISA is one of the companies that have kept going for a long time with the Vita. But even this year, they stopped producing physical games for the Vita. So like, you know, it feels like when NISA has stopped physical production, you know that it's like, I mean, obviously now they announced next year is the last time that Vita carts will be made in the West, but they're going to make them here in Japan until the end of 2020, I think they said. So we got 2 more years in Japan.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we both buy digital, so that's not and we have such an extensive backlog that if Vita production ended today, we'd be good for 3, 4, 5 more years at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, at least I have like maybe 60 Vita games. I have about 20 in the backlog unplayed so far, so like I'm doing fine. But but yeah, I still like I like the physical games. I like that you know, that you can lend them to people. That's the other thing. Like I always want to get more people into Vita, and like it's like, oh, you can borrow any of my games. I like that sort of aspect and stuff. But yeah, like I think like they just gave up in the West, essentially. They just gave up on it. So I think it could have done better, but you know.
I think I think for like a Vita sequel, you know, obviously the memory card, but I think if they did something with more of the cross buy, not just the cross save, but like if you buy something, like try and work it out where like if you know, even if it's just like meeting in the middle of the prices. So each game is $20 on each system. Okay, you pay $15 and you give both. You know, like kind of give your customer a break, like cut them a break a little bit instead of like I was looking at Mercenary Kings and I was like, oh, Mercenary Kings is on the Vita. I own it on PS4. Oh no, gotta buy it on Vita. It's like, okay, well that goes on the wish list, you know. So I think, well, like we touched upon, you know, the shoulder buttons, L3 and R3, and maybe, I don't know, maybe a better screen, like a little bit bigger. It doesn't need to be too big. Like I don't want it like Switch size because, like we said, like Switch is for out on the go, and then it's also for like home, like playing at home.
Yeah.
But I think having it, they can increase the size just a little bit, like maybe take it up 20-25%, and the Vita would still be really small. It would still be like, you know, probably 40% smaller than the Switch. So
yeah. I mean, I like the size of the Vita. I like that it's small, but yeah, I can see like a lot of games would be improved by being a little bit bigger. I mean, a lot of people, when you talk about the difference between the 1000 and the 2000 has a slightly bigger screen. But like people like the LCD over the OLED and stuff like that. To be honest, like the 2 screen types, I never particularly noticed the difference. Like more, what matters to me is that the 2000 has a much longer battery and that the 2000 is much lighter. So I think like it depends where your priorities are and things like that.
And then I think another thing that they could work on, I think, I don't know if you've heard it, but they have been talking about, you know, Sony has mentioned that they're looking at portable gaming again. And one of the points was that they might be trying to do something where, you know, you can play their games pretty much anywhere. Like you can already own a tablet, you know, and you can hook up, you know, you can download your games through their app onto a tablet, depending on how big they are and how demanding they are, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would like to see them like really do backwards compatible. Like I want, obviously we're getting a PlayStation 5, so yes, I play a PlayStation 4, so I'd love for all my PS4 games to be playable on my PS5 because there's a lot of them I haven't played yet. But I would love to see them do that with Vita. If they're going to do a sequel to the Vita, come out and say, okay, all Vita games that you can buy, you know, physical or digital, or you know, they'll work on the next console. Or and even I'd love to see them go back as far as PSP. There's some really good RPG games that I've seen on the PSP library. I bought a PSP when it came out, and then I got rid of it because of the UMD. I thought it was a stupid media, and I just didn't really play it a lot. So I got rid of it, and then I found out about people hacking it and putting like every console from like Nintendo all the way up to.
I have a NES emulator on my PSP.
Nice. Yeah. See, yeah, like, and that's awesome. And I missed, you know, I missed that, but it would be awesome, like if they did a true backwards compatibility. Like some PSP games are playable on the Vita, but it's only like a select few. I would love to see the larger library come, because that right there, I mean, you're gonna make money, especially like you said, like someone like yourself who travels a lot. All of a sudden it's like, well, look at this humongous library I have access to now that was locked away on PSP. Like I love Star Ocean. I'm a huge Star Ocean fan, and the Second Story was the game that got me to buy a PlayStation. And so I know they did the remakes of Star Ocean 1 and Star Ocean 2, but they're locked away on the PSP. And then when the latest Star Ocean came out, the creator or the director behind it was like, no, we're not gonna. They were gonna release it in the West, but then they decided not to because they didn't want to confuse people with like storylines and which games they should buy. And it's like, well, I'm gonna be honest, man. The only people that are probably buying your Star Ocean game are Star Ocean fans. So it's like, I don't think that's something you have to worry about. And people even further, if they're on the Vita, they really know what your games are. If not, then it's just a good game to buy. But I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him help out fans of all the games that are, and it's probably hard for them because a lot of the games they don't own publishing rights to.
Yeah.
So that could be a problem, but it's something they could work towards. You know.
To be fair, that one thing you're talking about backwards compatibility. One thing is there is a lot of PS1 classics on the Vita, but there's a lot less PS2 classics, and I think that would be.
I agree with you.
Something to go into as well,
like playing Suikoden 2 on your Vita. Yeah, it's a great game
because a lot of them are available on a PS3 now, and essentially if it can run on a PS3, it probably can run on a Vita in a lot of cases. So
especially if it's a classic like a PS1 classic. Yeah,
so I was surprised they didn't put a lot of those on the Vita. And aside from like there is some of them on the Vita, like Persona 3 is a classic example, but it'll always be discounted on the PS3, and then you never see the sale on the Vita. So even if they just made because Persona 3 on Vita is $20, which is a lot, I feel like, for a PS2 game, whereas it only cost me like $5 or something to buy it for PS3. So
yeah,
that's the other thing too. And, that's a 80, 90-hour game. So, people want to play it on the go. That's the thing. That's why JRPG, we're talking about genres that work well on the Vita. JRPG is another great genre for the Vita, simply because they're so long. They're so long. And if you have them on the go, then you can just pop a little bit of time into it all the time, and it'll build up.
Yeah, you can keep working away at it. So.
Yeah.
All right. I think we gave our Vita the right amount of love and attention.
Yes.
It's like that fourth child that you kind of like, damn it, why do we have four? But before we do go, Georgina, what are you playing now on the Vita?
At the moment, I'm still working my way through Stardew Valley. That'll be probably for a long time to come, I feel like. And at the moment, there's a visual novel out called Muv-Luv. So that's what I've been playing recently for review. Yeah, I play a lot of visual novels on it too. So
speaking of Stardew Valley, was yours a cross-buy purchase as well? Like, do you have it on PS4?
Review code, so it is cross-buy though.
Okay. Because ours is, and I was just wondering if you've played it on PS4 and if you noticed differences.
I haven't played it on PS4.
Okay.
People said like that there's like crashing issues with it on Vita, but I've played 30 hours. I've not had a crash, so I guess it depends. But like there is a little stuttering. The one thing with Stardew is that I actually think it should use the touch screen like to switch between items, and it only uses it to switch between the inventory. You know, there's like 3 inventory slots, and between those, that's the only thing the touchscreen uses. Like even the opening menu doesn't use touchscreen and stuff. So like sometimes you feel like I wish I could just touch here and put the crop here and stuff like that. So but obviously it's one of those games that you just put 10 minutes into now and again. So that's why I like it on Vita.
Okay.
So yeah, I really like that on Vita. Yeah.
And is there any game you would absolutely recommend for anyone with a Vita?
Absolutely everyone, I think, should play Yomawari. Like, not enough people have played Yomawari. That's like one of my big champion games, and I feel like anyone would like it. It's like a creepy horror game, but it's in a cute style.
Moose is out.
No, I'm looking it up right now. Okay, I've seen that. Okay.
Yeah. It's actually the collection's coming to Switch now, and people are like crazy about it. But originally, it was on Vita, and yeah, they're really like good games because like horror games are a lot of like jump scares now. But I feel like Yomawari got the like tension of horror really well without resorting to like jump scares or anything like that. So I really like the atmosphere it gave off.
This is Midnight Shadows?
Midnight Shadows is the second one, and the first one is A Night Alone, but both of them are good.
And this is by NIS, so we know they
Yeah, we know they put out good stuff.
It was really surprising how maybe because it was a Vita game. I mean, it was on PS4 too, but yeah, it was like PlayStation exclusive for a long time, and I think that's why not so many people played them. But yeah, I think anyone could get into the Yomawari games. They're really good.
It's only $20 on PSN right now for Night Alone.
They're not that expensive.
Nice. Cool. I'll have to check them out.
Everyone. And they're good on Vita, you know, play in the dark. You know, get the blood pumping. I like them. But yeah, they're not that scary, but they have got a nice, creepy atmosphere to them that I really liked.
I told myself after E3 and I spent like $160 on Fallout that I wouldn't buy anything. Oh, maybe I just make an exception. All right. Well, where can people find your website?
VitaParadisa.wordpress.com. It's only WordPress because it's just me doing it. But yeah, I only started it in January, so I'm just testing out the waters for now. And but it's been really popular. Like we've had a couple thousand unique visitors, so like I feel like there still is quite a strong little Vita community going. So yeah.
I can attest that your site, I love the Reverie walkthrough, and my embarrassing Vita story is that I only recently realized you could take screenshots.
He's horrible. I don't know why I work with him.
I literally just texted him like a week ago. I'm like, I just figured out how to do a screenshot on the Vita. And both him and Jeff, there was like no response. I'm like, you guys knew how to do this, didn't you?
I mean, that walkthrough had like, I think in total over 200 screenshots that I had to like organize. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was like a lot of effort because I did a screenshot of every room so that like people could see what they were doing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Dungeon 5 is a lot longer than you think. I think it's got like 60 rooms in it alone.
Yeah,
So,
no, Reverie is a fantastic game, but those dungeons, you don't realize it just as you play through the game. You get to those dungeons, you can easily just get lost and just completely frustrated.
Dungeon 4, I know a lot of people have. Dungeon 4, I actually didn't have a problem with at all. The first room I got stuck in was Dungeon 5, and it's because I didn't realize that you could shoot Steven with the dart gun.
Yeah.
I didn't do that because that was the first time I had to use it. That was the only puzzle that I found like a problem with. Everything else I thought was really well designed.
Five was the reason I Googled and found your site because it was the first time I got lost. I'm like, I spent like 15 minutes in one room. I'm like, I'm missing something. And it's so simple when it's one of those, oh.
But yeah, it was their first game of that genre, and I feel like they did a really excellent job with it. So I'm excited to see what they do next, actually, because they're gonna make more games like that, I think. So
it was basically Oceanhorn meets Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. It was, yeah, and it's got a bit of like Earthbound thrown in there. It's yeah.
I hope they do more. Definitely
it's cool. I mean, it's only like 5 or 6 hours, right? But sometimes I feel like if you do a short game that's like a complete experience, that's so much better than dragging it out. So I feel like that was really good.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I think it's only $12.99 or $14.99.
Yeah. Cheap. It's cheap.
There's even a Vita theme, and you don't see those anymore.
Yeah.
No, you don't, man. You're right.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Nerds Gone Platinum. Thank you again, Georgina, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
You can always write the show at nerdsgoneplatinum@gmail.com. Tweet us at ng_platinum. And stay tuned for next week, our 1 year and our first birthday. I don't know.
Yeah, first birthday. 52 episodes.
Return 1. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.